now that we've got an AI set up to play single player games, and we've got the multiplayer scene as well so that we can play 2-player games, let's make a main menu screen that we can actually use to choose between those 2 different games. So what we're going to do is create a new scene. So we go File, New Scene. We're going to go to a game object here. We're going to go to UI, and we're going to add a button. We'll zoom out here like this. I'm going to put this button here in the middle. Then we're going to change the text that the button currently says. So I'm going to go here, go to text. We're going to make this say single player. Oh, no, we don't want to enter. We're going to have a space there. I'm going to duplicate this button like this, and I'm going to move it down. So now this one will say, if we go into the text, this one will say multiplayer, like that. I'm actually going to move both of these buttons down a little bit more, and we're going to add a bit of text just above them. So we'll go UI text. I'm going to make this quite a bit bigger, like that. Put it in the position in the center. Then we're going to scroll down. We're going to make the color white. We're going to make it just say the name of the game, which will just be tennis. Make the font much bigger, and we'll center the text as well, like that. There we go. We've got a basic little screen. I'm actually going to change the camera background too. We want to make sure that it stays as the black background we've been using. So we've got single player and multiplayer in our game. So now we need to write a bit of code that will allow us to actually use these buttons. Because at the moment, if we press play, we've got these little buttons here. But of course, if we click on them, all that happens is they go a little bit dark. They don't actually do anything. So all we want them to do is actually load up our levels, which is our multiplayer and our single player levels. So let's create a script that will be able to let us do that. So we're going to go in here. We're going to create a new C# script that we're going to call our main menu, and we'll open this up in MonoDevelop. Actually, rather than just being able to go into single player and multiplayer, we should actually add a third button into the scene also. So I'm going to duplicate our multiplayer here, and we're going to put that just a little bit below there, and we're going to change the text on this to be quit game, so that our players can get out of the game. You're not just having to tab out and force it to close or anything like that. Okay, so we've got that there. Oh, I should actually save this scene, shouldn't I? We're going to save this scene as our main menu, and then we'll go into our main menu script. So in our main menu script, we're actually going to delete our start and our update because we're not going to use them at all. Instead, what we're going to use is a couple of custom functions. So we're going to create a public void that we're going to call load single, and that's what we're going to use to load the single player levels. Then we're going to create a public void that we'll call load multi, which will be what we use to load the multiplayer levels. And then we're going to create a public void quit game. Oh, we've been tabbed in there by accident. Public void quit game, which, self-explanatory, we'll use to quit the game. So to be able to load into different levels, as we did with our game manager to reset the scene, we need to use the scene management of Unity. So using Unity engine dot scene management, like that. So then to load our single player or our multiplayer, we need to know the names of the levels that we want to load. So here we're going to create a reference to the names of the levels, and that will be a public string single. So this is the first time we've encountered strings here in the course so far, and strings are basically a collection of letters. So any kind of word would be a string, a sentence can be a string, a single letter, a single number, anything like that would be a string. It's basically a collection of letters, numbers, characters, whatever, written out in a row. So this is how we'll use to store the name of the single player scene, and we'll also create a public string for the multiplayer scene. And then all we have to do in load single here is say, okay, when we want to load the single player level, we go to scene manager dot load scene, and the name of the scene we want to load is whatever is stored in our single string. And then here we'll do the same for our load multiplayer. For our scene manager dot load scene, and instead of single we'll use multi. And then finally down here for a quick game we do something slightly different. All we do is type application dot quit, and that will make us quit out of the currently running game. Now we won't actually be able to test that within Unity because it won't make you quit out of the whole of Unity, which would be incredibly unuseful. But just take it for now that it will work, and we will test it out when we build the final game. Okay, so now that we have all our scripts written, we can go and hook these up to our buttons and make sure that they actually do something. So we'll let that compile just there. And once it's finished compiling, we're going to go to our canvas here. We're going to add our main menu script to that, like that there. Then we need to give the names of the scenes that we want to load up. So I'm going to go to our scenes folder here to make sure that we get the exact right names, because again, you have to be spelled the exact same way and capitalized the exact same way. So on our single slot here, we need to type in single player, just like that. And then on our multi slot, we'll type in multiplayer, which is the name of that scene there. Okay, so we've got those two things referenced there. So now let's make our buttons actually do something. So I'm going to select all three of our buttons here like this. Then we're going to scroll down, and where we have on click here, this is basically how we're able to run any bit of code that we want to run. So what we're going to do is hit the little plus button, and then what that does is create this little thing here with a slot for where a script is that we want to run a function from. And we know we just attached the main menu script to our canvas, so we're going to click and drag our canvas into that slot there. So now it's selected and it's applied to all three of our different buttons. So let's now go to individual buttons and make them actually do something. So on the first button, the single player, we're going to go down to the bottom, and here where it says no function, what we'll do is click on that, and we'll go to the main menu, which is the script we just created, and then we want to use our load single function, which will load the single player level. We'll do the same for the other button where it says no function. We're going to go to our main menu and load the multiplayer button, and then finally for the quit game, we'll go to main menu and then the quit game button. So there we go, we have our three different functions all working just the way we want. Now if we hit play, there is going to be a bit of an error when we try to load into a level, and this is the error that I thought might have occurred when we tried to reload the same scene that we were in, but instead it will certainly occur when we're trying to load into a new scene. So as I said before, the quit game button won't actually do anything. It won't throw us an error, but it won't make us quit out of the game either. But if we click on single player here, we'll get an error down here that says single player couldn't be loaded because it's not been added to the build settings, or the asset bundle has not been loaded. And the reason we're getting that is because, as it says here, it hasn't been added to the build settings. So what we have to do is go to File and go to Build Settings, and any time you want to load a level within a game, you need to make sure that it's included in the final build of the game, basically. So what we'll do is we'll make sure and drag in our main menu, our multiplayer, and our single player. So these are the three scenes that will be accessible by players when the actual game is built. And we also want to make sure that the first thing that the players see is the main menu. So whichever scene is first in the order here, that will be the scene that loads up as soon as the game starts. It doesn't matter about the order for any of the rest of them basically, but for the first scene we need to make sure that is the main menu. Okay, so now that the three of them are added into our build, we can close out of that, and then if we hit play, what we'll get is our game loads up again. And now if we hit single player, we can load into our single player game with our AI opponent playing away. We'll stop the game and rerun it, and if we hit multiplayer this time, we'll load into our multiplayer game so we can move up and down to our heart's content. So that's how we can navigate into our different modes and have the actual kind of feel of a proper game in action. But of course, right now, all we can do is keep restarting this game over and over again. Or what we would also like to do is be able to use the common button of hitting escape to quit back to the main menu. So we're going to add the ability to do that in the next video.